let me just give a disclaimer. Every person's pathway is different. So I'll just give mine. And then now later, if you've got time or stuff, then I can talk about all the other different ways and different pathways that people can use to get in. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
And yes, that's perfect. And then at the end, maybe you'll just allow people to just ask you some questions if they have any.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. So yeah, I am Laura. Well, you get weird when I think the thing says doctor, it's just because it's for work. But yeah, I'm Laura. I finished med school in 20. I graduated 2016. I graduated in 2016. Then I went for internship from 2017 to 2018, and then I left. So I left in, okay, so I had one foot in Kenya and one foot in the US because I became a US resident when I was in my final year of med school. So the only reason, to be quite honest, I transitioned was because I would lose my residency if I did not transition. So that's how I ended up going there. So I did internship, finished it, and then I moved. So when I went there, I think I was trying to find a way to work, but you can't really work without any experience. So I started doing my USMLE. So I did the step one, did my step two, but um, this was pre-COVID. So they were looking for clinical experience, which I didn't have, which actually most places require. And if you are ahead of yourself or smart enough, then you do it when you're still in med school. I wasn't planning on transitioning, so I clearly didn't have any medical experience. So the work that I did when I was doing step one and step two was what counted as my clinical experience. So when I was doing step one, did I really work? No, actually, step one was difficult because it was the days when they were still like scoring it. So I didn't work during step one. Then when I was doing step two, I got a job as a medical assistant. No, I got a job as a TMS technician. So TMS is this thing they use for treating depression. It's one of the, I guess, the newer ones. So I started working as a technician for that thing. I did that job for about 6 months. And then I met psychiatrists because it was their practice. So they wrote my letters of recommendation. They kind of told me how to navigate the system and everything. Then I moved from there and I went and worked as a medical assistant because at that time, psychiatry was very keen on clinical experience. But you can't just like put all your eggs in one basket. So I had to look for another practice that I can work in. So I went and worked in a family medicine practice. But that one I stayed for like about a year because it was in the middle of COVID and all that stuff. So during these two things, I did my step two. And at that time, we had something called step two CS, which I put also in the middle of that. Then come COVID, actually, no, that was like 2020, I guess. Like, yeah, right before thereabout, I did my last step three because many schools, once you're about 3 years post graduation, they really start looking at step three. And especially for psychiatry, that's the one thing. They don't want to have to deal with failures once they've taken you. So they just prefer that you do your step three before you even apply. So I did it. And then after I did my step three, I'd gotten my clinical experiences, enough of it, like in psychiatry and family medicine. So I decided to go to research. So I went and worked as a clinical research coordinator for a little bit. Then I finished and I worked another research job. So it was just one was online, one was physical. I worked the physical one for about 3 months. The online one, I think, I'm not even sure, maybe it's even still ongoing. It's one of those really long projects that never really have an end. But yeah, I did that. Then I applied for STEP for my I applied for what is it? The residency the first time. I did not get anything. Zero. Zero invites, zero everything. It was just regret. And I was like, hey, okay. So the second time I was about done. And I was like, let me just apply it again. So I applied the second time. And then I got interviews and I got the school I actually really wanted. So I matched into it. And now that is where I am. So So far, I am finishing, psych is 4 years. So I'm finishing my second year in this month, actually. I'm finishing second year in this month, and then transition to third year, and then fourth year, you do whatever you want to do. So that's my experience so far. Um, in terms of residency, it is so different. I think if there was ever anything that struggle to get into it, it is definitely worth it. It's a whole different ballgame when people don't insult you all the time. It feels very strange when you get something wrong and people are so nonchalant about it. You're like, I okay, no one is insulting me, no one is going to tell me go read this, like nothing. They're so gentle about it. And then you're paid. That's the other thing. So you're paid as a resident. And then it's now more of a work-life balance, depending on whatever specialty you pick. So my specialty I work like a regular person. So I go to work at 8, sometimes 9, it depends. And I come back at 4:30 for decency's sake. But most of the time work is even done maybe earlier. So you just stay like behind and study and do whatever you want to do. So 4:30, you go and do your own things. Nobody expects you to locum because you're being paid. Nobody expects anything. You just carry on with your life like a normal person. Um, the only other thing is we have like exams every year, which for psychiatry wise, you don't really have to be the best, but you have to like improve your scores every year. So if the first year you started with something of an average, maybe let's say 60, that's okay. Next year go, 70, so long as you're going up, because it's an indicator of whether you'll actually pass the board exams. Now, the board exams are done after you've graduated. So ours are done, I think, in September or in August. So you graduate in June, and then you have your study time until September or August, and then you do it. Uh, the other thing is, it's kind of, again, this one depends also on the residency that you pick. Because mine, I'm actually in Kenya right now. Like, it's, it's, they let you play around with your time off so that you can pull a couple of days together and go back home. Um, you've got sick time, like you literally like a normal working person. That's the thing. So like in a nutshell, that's my experience with like overview. I've not really like gone into, but that's like overview of how I got there. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I just want to say congratulations on what you've achieved. And we feel you on that one of being insulted daily. Wow, I can't wait for that part to end. I
Not
just wanted
insulted.
to ask, sorry?
Mm-hmm. I'm saying no one's gonna insult you. It's actually like really bad if they insult you because it could go legal really quick. So people don't do
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
that's it. How, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get your US residency? Like not your medical residency, like the like to live there, the residency.
I got married. So my husband was a citizen, and then for when how was that working? Yeah, we got married. So I ended up going for a little bit. We applied for this whole thing, and then I got a residency. So when I was doing my last year of med school, I was actually already a resident there. I just didn't understand the system that you need to be there you need to be there for more than 6 months. So I was busy
Mm.
playing around. I'm here for like 5.5 months, and then I ran there for like 2 weeks, and then I come back. But yeah, they caught up with me, so I actually had to go go for real.
Wait,
Yeah,
this is when you're in med school.
yeah. It was in med school, the
Oh,
last school.
okay. And you were able to balance the two,
Like the
like
the
going to stay there and coming back, like going back and forth.
that was two. That's what I'm saying, like the 2 week thing. So I was like,
Mhm.
because don't pass 6 months, you're okay. So I did
Mm.
two go and then go for 2 weeks and then come back and then wait again just right before the 6 months and then go. And then before went to internship, there was that long break because of the strike and everything. So I actually went and stayed for a while there. So it didn't look too bad. So yeah.
Mm.
That's how I ended up getting it. But there are different ways of getting it. There are people who apply for green cards, like the
Mm.
lotteries, and then it's just you inakwanga bahati
Yeah.
and it luck and you get it. So it
Yeah.
gets some people unprepared. They just apply and they're like, I'm going to go on with my life. And then they get it and they're like, okay, now I actually have to go. And then you go there and you realize your degree here is worth nothing. And now you
Mm.
start, yeah,
Again.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so how would you say, or do you know anyone where it has worked that they were not residents, but just because they got a residency or applied for residency, that they were able to relocate to the US?
Oh, you mean like the med school residency, yeah?
Yes, the med school residency this time.
Yes, I know somebody who's done it, but you you have to have extremely high scores. So like step one doesn't matter these days because it's a pass or a fail. But back then, I think the one that I'm talking about, I did it like way back. He got, I think, 260 or something. Like he got some really high scores. And then step two was the same thing. So like that's someone you're not going to bypass. And he
Mm.
actually effort when you're having elective time in med school. He went and he did an elective
Mm.
and so he already had like a tie. So by the time he was applying, nobody had a problem sponsoring his visa.
Okay. Okay. And also, would you say that it's quite critical to have clinical experience? And does the clinical experience in Kenya count? Like if you do your electives here, or do they favor people who've done electives, let's say in the US or elsewhere abroad?
Unfortunately, many people still have the mindset that we don't know what we're doing, like Kenya doesn't know what they're doing. So it doesn't matter. They need you. And I think now I'm understanding where this is coming from. They need you to be able to interact with their own medical system as
Mm.
clinical evidence because things are different. There is electronic medical records, which it just sounds easy to say, electronic medical records. But when you actually get into it, it's a learning curve and it can literally break your day or make you do 6 hours of work in 2 hours. Like if you don't know that thing.
Mm.
The other is there are just some social nuances here and there, like how to interact with certain kind of people. So like just being in that clinical setting helps you like no the way in Kenya the doctor I mean as much as things are going wrong, yes, but the if you go to the hospital, guys still treat you with a lot of respect. Yeah.
Mm.
It is not necessarily the same there. So just some certain kind of things. So if you go with the mindset that what you say goes and you reach there, like what you say good, no one cares. What you say, like, yeah, they came for medical advice, well and good. If it doesn't go with what they want, too bad. So it's
Yeah.
just those sort of things, just learning how to navigate, learning how to know how to talk to certain kinds of people. Then the medicines also are a bit different. So we see, like us, we just say amoxil and it's amoxil. Everybody knows it's amoxil. But now there they have either they use their own brand name, because the US system has their
Mhm.
own brand, or they use the generic name. That's why it's really important.
Okay. Okay,
Mm.
got it. And also, was psychiatry like your first choice, or was it like after applying for other things? Because you've said that you didn't get the first time you applied, like how many residency programs had you applied to on average, and how was that interview process?
So psychiatry, in the very beginning when I was in med school, I would never have done psychiatry. Like I was told, you need to do psych. I refused. My final exam, the lady told me you are going to do psych. I was like, no. Then after I did internship, I was like, I will never, ever, ever start one again. I am doing psych. So it was either do psych, I had to do like psych or dharma or one of those
Mm.
things. Dermatology, I think once I reached there, I realized, there's some things that are just not for us because dermatology, they
Mm.
take off it's like up there, derma and ortho, ukoju. So, because they're kind of lifestyle specialties. So those ones are up there. There was no way I was getting into that. So psych was the
Mm.
next one. And I ended up like one of my clinical experiences was psych, so it just fell. Um, I applied to step. What am I? I'm trying to read and talk. Sorry. I applied to, I applied to
I'll read them out after, don't worry.
sorry. I applied to psych, family medicine, and IMED and patho. So the first time I applied to family medicine and psych only because those are the
Mm-hmm.
only had experience in. Family medicine
Mm-hmm.
was because family med is everything. So I was just like,
Mm.
I was kind of hoping the experience I had in Kenya would fall there, but I didn't get it. One, because most family medicine programs they were preferring that you finish your med school and then you enter straight, or less than 3 years of graduation. I had passed that, so there was no way
Mm.
I was getting. But you still try. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then I didn't get any psych interviews. And I honestly do not know why. Because the second time round, the only different thing I did was research, and the research wasn't even in psych. The research was in
Mm.
pharmaceutical. So I am not quite sure what happened, why I got interviews the second time for psych, but I
Yeah.
did. And then that's how I ended up landing in psychiatry. But honestly, I think everybody else knew I was going to do psych except me all along. Yeah.
Yeah, they were wise, wiser than you at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, people are really worried about the cost, like the cost of doing the steps, of also like going there to do interviews, these kinds of things. Like, what would you say it costs on average?
If you try to think about cost now, it will crush you, it will break your heart. But think of it as an investment, to be honest.
Mm,
If See, it's just like any investment. Sometimes you go all in and you pray that it's going to, build into something. Sometimes it doesn't, but you still put your all inside there because it's an investment. So this is
yeah.
what this is. I cannot remember the nitty-gritties because there are things that you have to register for. I think for a specific form, and then for I think being verified. Those ones I can't remember. Those were like in the very beginning. When I was doing step one, it was from the prices might have changed, and I think the website has the structure. Yeah, when you
Yeah.
do it, it's like $900, which now, if the exchange rate is bad, shall hack off. But that's what it
It is
is.
bad, very bad.
Very bad, but it's better. It was like 160 at some point, so right?
Yeah, that's
Off,
true.
but yeah. So 900 and something, like 960 or something the first time. And then step two was 1,200, I think. This could
Hmm.
have changed. That was like my ballpark. Step two CS, which is not there anymore. Step two CS was awful because you actually had to do it physically there. And
Hmm.
then it was 1,500 for step
Wow.
three. And then it's only being done in 6 states. So whatever state you're in, you have to figure out how you're going to travel to that state, sleep there,
Travel. Mm.
and then trained before the exam. So that I'm glad is not there anymore. Right now I hear they're doing OET, something like that, which is not too bad. I think it's like almost like the TOEFL. I'm not sure
Mm.
about that one, but it's not as bad as 1,500. Would never be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, I think, about 1,000 or something, 1,000 or 900 or something like that. Now those are the exam costs. Now there's a one for down here because your study materials. Um, UWorld is
Mm.
like the people use because it has the same structure of questions as
Yeah.
the way that UWorld depends on how long you buy it for. If you buy it for
Mm.
a year, it's expensive, but it's better than going 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. So
Yeah.
um you can have there's that UWorld cost. There's something called NBME, which are usually practice tests that people take
Mm.
that try to replicate what the exam is going to look like so you can know where exactly you stand. So there's that one too. I think like an
Mm.
exam, it was like $100 when I was doing it, 100 or 60 or 100, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the over costs for step one. And then there's the book, which, and then there's other things. If you're like a visual learner, there's like a subscription to, what is that thing called? Sketchy. So there's Sketchy biochemistry, Sketchy this, there's every sketchy thing. So there's that one in there, which
Yeah.
if you're, I'm not saying bootleg, but I'm not saying bootleg, but you can share a friend. So you can buy Sketchy something and they buy a different one, and you guys have
Then you
that.
share. Mm.
Mm. Step two is a bit better because step two, because considering we are clinically oriented, step two
Yeah.
is step one. So you just
Mm.
need to like you just need to brush up on some of these things and stop thinking in terms of, as we think in terms of cost, like what is
Yeah.
cost, if stop thinking in terms of that and you start thinking about in terms of the right way to do things. So that's how
Mm.
you easy to pass step two. Step three, now here's where now the other cost comes in, because I think step three you actually have to go to the US and do it.
Mm.
So the cost of the airfare, then the cost of the accommodation, I think, while you're there, and then there's the cost of the exam itself. People sometimes combine that with the clinical experience so that you're not going several times, because
Mm.
airfare is kind of really, it's high.
Yeah.
So if you can combine them both, yeah, in such a way that when you're writing that letter to the embassy, it doesn't look sketchy, then the people who do it.
Okay, that's really good advice. And
Mm.
also, what has your social experience been like? I know you said you're married there, so maybe that makes life a bit like easier if you're married to an American. But like, what's been your social experience? Have you gotten any like racism or maybe unfair treatment, even in like the hospital? Are there patients who will be like, "Don't touch me," or just things like that, like socially?
So my American is actually a Kenyan American. Like
Oh, okay,
he's not white. So like when
okay, okay,
my circle was still a Kenyan circle. So it was not a big
okay.
um psych, maybe it's because I work in psych. But psych people, it, they're not as racist as everybody else is. The ones
Mm.
are just antisocial and malingering. But over like they are not, like it's like I think mental illness transcends even your skin color, because they never call you out on your race, they never insult you, they never do. It doesn't matter how disorganized, they I've never had that experience. Maybe others have, but the ones who call me, or the ones who've attempted to call me, are usually antisocials or malingering, and it's because I've not given them what they want.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my experience so far. And then I live in like the middle, like one of the whitest places, but
Mm-hmm.
my state has very kind people. Like they're just nice. So people, for the most part, try and nice, or they feel embarrassed if they say something racial. So guys kind of like watch themselves a lot.
Uh,
So I have not had a bad experience in terms of that from a patient
oh,
perspective. But from a colleague perspective, and because it's not just doctors, you've got doctors,
mhm.
nurses, patient techs, all these things. You will have some difficulty, especially if you're a woman, for them to recognize that you're actually a doctor.
Mm,
Call you everything else except doctor. And it
mm,
will take a while for them to click in their head that this foreign girl is actually a doctor amongst
yeah.
staff. Yeah.
Okay, that makes. I feel like that happens here too, though.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
sister.
Hey,
Yeah.
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every
Mm.
girl, female doctor is called sister. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's I think those are my questions. Let me ask Maureen. Maureen, do you have any questions?
Hi, my name is Maureen. I'm loving the session so far. I'm actually having such a good time listening to that. It feels very at home. Like it's not too far-fetched. It's like, yeah, I actually do kind of relate. I'm loving it. But yes, so just my question is mostly on, so how was your, is there anything you did in University of Nairobi now, given that you did undergraduate here, like that contributed to your residency application significantly? Like, is there a research they did in undergrad that contributed to your residency application? And also, how how important is research experience in clinical, I mean, in undergraduate, um, to residency matching? Like, how does it increase your chances of matching, and does specific kind of research increase your chances of matching to particular program? Yeah, that's my question.
So, let me see if I can remember. So the what I did in like UON, at that point I wasn't really expecting to go. So there was nothing that from my end that I think I did that contributed towards anything. Because I really wasn't. My head was not there. It was not something I thought about ever going or practicing or doing anything. It was just one of those things that just fell on my lap and I was like, oh, okay, I have to deal with this. So that side, I cannot speak for it. But I have a colleague who, when I was in med school, there are things that he did and he changiad a little bit. So when we were doing electives, he applied. There's usually this thing, and I don't know if they still have it going on with University of Pennsylvania, where they every year I think they allow you, yeah, it's there, you just have to ask, it's there. If you don't know about it, you go. So you ask the, is it the dean's office? I think it was the dean's office, about how to apply for this thing, and then they send you the website and they send you can go and do. So he did that. Another one also, but his parents were there. So he went during that elective and did electives there. So those ones actually had an easier time than I did, because the moment they finished their steps, they've already had clinical experience in an actual hospital. So it wasn't a big deal. So they had an upper hand. Um, in terms of so that one, how would I say? If you have an opportunity to go through it that way, that's actually better, because you already make a name for yourself when you're there. You make contacts while you're there, which you actually try to maintain when you come back. And your letters of recommendations look better when they come from a university than when they come from just anybody. Yeah. So that's how it works for them if you can get into such a program. Um, Research wise depends also on your program, what you're looking into. So psych is not research heavy. That's why I'm saying I don't even know what that research did for me. I don't know why it was there, but I did it nonetheless. Um, if you want to get into a university program, you have to do research, whether you like it or not, because they do a lot of research. When you're doing community program, they don't care about research as such. So it's just a plus. But now that when you're making your applications, just make it, tailor it to whatever you've done. So if you cannot apply for a community hospital and then jazza your CV with research things, they'll just be like, this one doesn't even know what they want. So they'll get rid of you. So such kind of things. Um, if you want to get into things like IMED, here, there, maybe. Um, IMED PEDS, not so much. Patho would be nice if you could do something. Uh, if you're looking into getting into surgery, ortho, ophthalmo, anesthesia, you just name it. These things, they're called road. First of all, you're a very high achiever if you want to get into those things. And number two, uh, you actually have to do research, because what do you bring to the table that they don't? Yeah, for those ones.
Okay, yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think now I'll open it up to the floor. Um, let me just start with the ones that are already in the chat. So there's a question here from Godfrey Emmanuel. I heard Dr. Yugi talk about doing step 3 is important if you graduated more than 2 years ago. Is there a period of time beyond which you can't apply for residency or it becomes complicated to get in?
No, not 2 years, 3. Like, the thing is, where have you been? You know you've been working, you've been struggling financially, but put yourself in a situation for an American graduate. Where have you been for 3 years after graduation? You see,
Yeah.
you actually count for that time. So that's why you do step 3. So it jazzes your nini. It looks like you've actually been doing some things. And the other thing, when you do step 3, you're a less of a risk. It's not a must for you to do step 3, but there are some specialties that even when you look, they'll tell you, maybe do step 3, like psych. Do step 3 and be done with it. I don't think you have to do step 3, but it makes you more effective if you do it. Then application-wise, not all schools are 2 years, 5 years. So there's a website that you go to and it shows you the list of the schools that are participating in the match. You look, there are schools that say, if you graduated more than 1 year ago, we don't want you. There are others that say 2 years, others say 5, others say up to 10, others don't care. So before you apply blindly to something, just make sure you've looked into those schools. Don't just send your filtered out. Yeah.
Okay, I think that one's answered. And then another one. Hi, Doc. How can you get involved in research, especially online? What skills do you need? That's from Michelle Nyakundi.
Just keep looking. Look for a contact. The more your research is attached to a university, the better it is. So they're usually guys who look for clinical research assistants. They're guys who look for, that's usually the most research assistants. Those are the ones, like, try and inakwanga bahati, just try and get yourself in. And then another thing, you can look at which kind of Kenyans are in what universities, and just like be bold enough and be like, hey, are you doing anything research related? I'm interested in this and this. I've seen you here. Can you lead me a certain way? People will do something for you.
Okay.
So
be bold.
Just be bold. You'll be told no, but just be bold. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. The worst is a no.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Doc. What's your take on moving to the US after doing masters? Do they make us redo residency? That's from Elisha Ngina. It's from Ngina.
Yes. You cannot practice in the US without doing residency. You can do other things, research, whatnot, but forget about clinical practice if you've not done residency. So when I was asking you, I was telling you about pathways. There's so many pathways of getting there. So one pathway is finish your master's here and then apply for a fellowship over there. When you've already done perhaps your steps, but you do your fellowship. When you do your fellowship, you go, maybe it's a 2-year fellowship. You've made contacts, you've made everything. Apply for residency. It's going to be so much easier for you to get in as a resident. And you're only doing that so that you can get your license to practice. That's it. Yeah.
So if you do fellowship only, you still can't practice. If you do your fellowship in the US, no? Okay, you still have to go through their residencies.
There are people who do fellowship. Kwanza, there are guys who do nephrology, and then they go back and do IMED because it's 3 years. So you still go back and do your 3-year IMED. And then when you're done,
Okay, interesting. Hi, Daktari. Are there any specific medical programs that are easier for IMGs to get into? That's from Melissa.
Yes, they are. And they're towards the New York, New Jersey side, Texas side. Those ones are easy IMGs to get into because they have a lot of IMGs. But yeah, those ones. But just look again, look in the website. People say don't overlook anything. Go to that website, look for the school. Just look at that school nicely. Then you know they take a lot of IMGs. And if you look inside, requirements is we don't sponsor visas, we don't sponsor street, but you clearly know you're not getting into that school. So why are you bothering to apply?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can tell just from their requirements, like how their attitude towards IMGs.
If they're not sponsoring visas, then why are they taking it? How will they take you from here? Because how will you get there without a sponsored visa? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about specialty wise? Because there's school wise, but there's also specialty wise that are easier for IMGs to get into.
All I know is radiology, ophthalmo, ortho, derma. What other thing is there? Those ones. Yeah. Be
Okay.
ambitious. About it. Plastic surgery. Be very ambitious. Those ones are for people who, if you wanted to do that, you better have started in undergrad. So you're doing your step one, they're doing their step one. Your scores are high, their scores are high. You do research, they do research. You do clinical here, there, have to be at par with them.
Yeah.
But otherwise, ISO, no,
Difficult.
that one's difficult.
Okay.
But IMED, patho, peds, pretty simple. Not
Okay.
easier.
A bit easier.
Yeah.
Okay. And then is it worth it to go abroad to the US in this case here? Or should one just train here at home?
You kind of got lost for a little bit. Do you want to read
Sorry,
again?
my phone rang. The question asks, like, is it worth it to go there if you want to come back, or if you want to stay here, it's better to just specialize here and practice here?
You can try. It doesn't hurt to try, but be aware of the financial part. Don't expect to go lukewarm and then think that things are going to work out. So if you're going to be all in, be all in. And it doesn't mean you're there forever. There are doctors they've gone, they've done their thing, they've come back. They worked for a bit, they've gone back. The good thing is you have both licenses.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
Another question. Hi doc, what's the minimum USCE for psych applicants? Also, how difficult is it for psych applicants if they have a GC? Debbie. I don't know. Debbie.
Got it. Psych, first of all, for psych, number one is interest in clinical experience, because for a long time people used psych as a backup. They were never really interested in it. So you have to at least have some clinical experience that's significant, that just screams psych. Like for mine, I did TMS. I went all the way and I like physically did TMS with people. So then I even forgot. I worked in a psych hospital at some point as well. I forgot about that. But yeah, so just your application has to screen psych, so it doesn't look like using them as a backup. Green cards, this don't have to do with the specialty. Green cards are a school thing. Definitely, when you have a green card, it's easier just because that's one less thing they have to worry about with you. They don't have to file for you your visa, but it has nothing to do with a specialty. You can get into any specialty regardless. It's your experience that sometimes matters in the school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what if one has done observerships or externships and hasn't done research? Would that count in the match process?
Yes. The
Okay.
observerships actually count as clinical experience, so you have a upper hand compared to research.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would advise to do an observership, or even though it's just an elective, like in whatever you are interested in applying to, like the specific specialty.
So, let me just like rate them how it looks, yeah?
Okay.
But disclaimer, this is also just maybe our program or psych related when we're doing interviews and looking at applications. But rotations and clinical experience in the US is number one. That one you're not going to kick that out. So if you that, and that usually happens when you're in undergrad.
Yeah.
Once you graduate, you cannot have an elective there or a rotation there. Once you graduate, whatever you do becomes an observership or an externship. They prefer when you do a rotation because you're hands-on. You get into the system, you get to the patient, you touch them, you do whatever, like full on the way we do rotations. Once you graduate, an observership, it is what it is. You're observing. So that
Okay.
would be, yes. So that would be number two. Number three would be, actually, no, two, above that would be work experience there. Because when you're
Okay.
working, you much in the mix of everything, and then the externships and the observerships. That's the grading of
The
it.
ranking. Okay. And then Edna asks, is it mandatory to do the STEPS exams? Isn't there a path of doing masters here and fellowship there, followed by now the residency there without the STEP exams? Is it possible to go there without STEPS?
That's what I'm telling
No.
you. You have to do the step because you cannot get a license. How you get a license is to do the step. That's how you get your medical license.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which they do themselves.
Who?
Like their students, their med students also do their STEPS.
Everyone. That's I'm like you're not special. Everybody they
Yeah.
do. Everybody has to do the step.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah.
Doreen says, thanks a lot. I like how you don't scare us. Do you mind sharing your phone number, please?
Okay. Let me just type it. But for phone number, when you can send a text and then I look for a time to call you. If I don't respond to the text, please be merciful. I have two kids and I'm a resident. So sometimes things are a lot. But I will definitely respond. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really nice of you. Someone asked, just for clarification, so for step 3, it has to be done physically in the US.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. You have to do it. Unless things change, but step two, you have to do it there.
Someone else asked, how long do you prepare for a step?
Don't read what you see online, please. Because just remember we are not equally yoked. There are people who need to 10,000 times before they get it. There are people who see something once. Do not look at those things, please. And don't apply for an exam if you know you've not read or you're comfortable. This is a lot of money. Maybe $100+ is not something for most of you, but it's a lot of money to go down the drain. So you better read for it. Read until you know you're sure, and then now apply for the exam. I'm gonna keep looking for the spaces, but don't gauge that mtu alisoma na 3 months and even me I have to do 3 months. You're setting yourself up. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you'd advise applying after you're comfortable enough where you feel like I can do this now.
No, apply for it, but the exam window, like
Oh,
you pick
yes, yes. Yeah, you
window.
picked your window.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's a charge when you cancel too soon inside, but then there's no charge. I think if you just like if you've got like 30 days, I don't think there's a charge. You can just move it.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I think that's it for the questions. If someone
Yeah.
still has a question, kindly unmute and just ask it. Or um, someone asks, after doing your master's in medicine in ortho, do you still have to do residency? Which you said yes, but they're asking, is it easier to match? So let's say you already an orthopedic surgeon here, you've already done it, and you also it's quite hard to get into there. Is it easier now that you're already an orthopedic for them to match you there? It's
No,
not easier. Okay.
it's not easier. Then if you want that route, the easiest thing would be to apply for a fellowship. If you feel that you're at par with them, apply for the fellowship and then now work backwards. But
Okay.
don't no.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's all for the questions. I just want to really thank you for taking your time. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it. You've given us so much insight. The things I've learned that I had no idea. I didn't know you can't do a fellowship and work there.
Mm-mm.
I didn't know so many things, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the insight. I think if people have questions, they can send me and I can ask you, or they can text you directly. Or maybe it's easier if I compile them. I don't know. What's easier for you?
I think it's easier if you compile. And I am not ignoring anybody. If you send a text and I don't respond, I'm not ignoring. I'm human like you guys. So like I have other things. But I'll get to it. I will. I will eventually. One other thing, before you get into this, just make sure you know what pathway you want to take. If you
Okay.
want to take the reading for steps and trying your luck, be sure. If you want to go the green card pathway, be sure. If you want to go and snatch a white person, be sure. If you want to go the fellowship route, just like at least know your pathways. And there's
Yeah.
another one we're using. Asians, a lot of Asians go. They go to UK first because clubs is a bit easier and
Mm,
can work in the UK without
mm,
having to specialize. So they do that and then they work and read for steps. And then even
mm.
if the steps work, I see they're still in the UK, so they're fine.
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah.
Quite smart. There's a question I missed. Sorry. Someone is asking what can they do to strengthen their CV, like for application or strengthen your application.
Depends on your level. Again, observership. If you've already graduated, if you haven't elective, if you have observership, uh try do research papers with these guys if you can. And again, it's not mandatory. It's just one of those things that makes you look like you're actually in tandem with them. Um, your steps matter more than you think. Try and do this step one. Try and get the highest possible score, especially in step two, seek, because it is easy. Step two is easy. Me, I
Mm.
read for nearly. I didn't even put effort into it, but I passed. So
Yeah,
where you put an effort because that one matters the most now. If you can get high scores in step two, I
you're
think you're
good to
good.
go.
You're good to go. And also be shy, be bold, approach as many people as you can. Go online. There's a way you can target a school. You can look amongst the schools and see which ones looks like you can fit in. Target those schools. Sumbwana email. Said, I want to do something with you guys. Is there a way I can come and do an elective? I mean, over here, like just explain your situation. You never know.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
And then someone has asked, is medical life as glorified as people make it seem on social media? And how is the work-life balance um between here and the US? Like, how would you rate the work-life balance there?
We have a good work-life balance because again, I'm in psych, but it's my program. But
Yeah.
I work 8 to 4:30. That's it. I go home and I forget about everyone and everything, and then I show up again at 8 o'clock. Um, this one depends on the specialty and the hospital. I'm lucky with mine because I don't do overnight calls ever. Weekend call is 6 weekend calls in a year. That's about it. And weekend call is around and go. So it's not, I'm not going to lie, I think I have a pretty comfortable work-life balance. But there's some things like you do, I made no first year you don't have a life. Just be aware. some things like that. If you're doing ortho, forget about your life for a bit. Such kind of things. Someone asked about links of schools. Let me see if I can find it right now. I cannot find the list right now, but when I do, I'll share it to Beata and then she can send it to you guys. There's like a website that has that stuff.
Oh, it's called AMC, AAMC.
That one. Yeah, that one. It has like a list of many things, that one. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm just wondering whether that's we've exhausted all the questions. I think we have. Someone is asking, how can people join clinical informatics? Huh? Clinical
apply.
informatics?
You
That's
apply.
Amy.
There are universities that offer it as
Okay.
a post. Just apply.
Yeah. And I had
Yeah.
one last question. What do you think about you complete your MBCHB undergraduate degree and then you apply for a different master's program, like probably public health? Like there's one I saw at Bloomberg, Hopkins. So how does that make you a more viable candidate, or is it just the same? You're just adding something to your CV without necessarily it contributing to your residency pathway?
Oh, it does contribute because by doing that, you're creating links. Who are going to write your letters of recommendation? Who's going to say, uh, let's just be real. Someone comes from outside and just says they want to come and work with us. How easy, how open are you going to be of them? Kwanzaa, you start like, I don't know these people. I don't know what they did. That's how, honestly, that's how you are automatically. But chances are, if somebody comes and tells you, hey, I've worked with this person, they're really nice. I've seen their ethics, I've seen their this. There's a high chance you're going to take them. Cindy works the same way with residency. You've come from nowhere. They don't know you. They don't know your school. And then you want to show up and apply and think so sometimes if you've done the public health, you're creating your links from there. You'll find doctors just like you who've done stuff there. Someone can vouch for you. Someone can tell you, hey, you're going the wrong way, go this other direction. Or I know somebody who has something you're looking for. It's all connections. It's all not connection, networking. That's a word.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to confirm that. And I think we're out of questions totally. And you've shared your number in case anyone has further questions. And also, Beat is back, so.
Yeah. But
So
send them to
sorry.
Beata. Yeah, send them to Beata and then I'll answer them. I think that's the easiest way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I dropped off my network. Yeah, my network dropped. But I think that's it for this evening. Thank you so much again. I don't think we can thank you enough for taking your time and just sharing with us more about this journey. I think it's something that a lot of people are thinking about, considering the current climate in Kenya, which is quite hostile to doctors. So yeah, everybody is just looking